Hi, I'm Adam Riley, and today I'm going to be solving prepping data week 20 in the Enso product. Um, First thing to note, brand new feature of Enso released just this week. We now have a documentation panel. So I've actually copied and pasted the instructions for this week prepping data into the documentation panel. It's open and closable via the menu in the top right and lets you document your workflow, um, an overview of what it does. As I say, today I've used it for the instructions of the payment data. And what we're doing today is looking at some customers at this supermarket company and want to do some analysis. So we've got a couple of tables we can see here on the right. So first thing to do is see down here in the requirements, input the data. So we start as usual with a data read operator. Press the plus and select data read. And let's get rid of this starting component and then just downloaded this file. So here's the .x file that contains these two worksheets. And if I use a read component, I can read each of these in. So customer spending is the one, and the other one is customer name. Okay, so input the data, check that off. Okay, so next thing we do is join the sheets and remove the names to maintain privacy. So if we have a look at the data we've got here, so we've got table. Okay, so straight away we've got interesting formatting here. So you'll notice the header is actually across the first two rows. That's great format. This one, the header is looks like it's in a better shape. Yeah, so this is a name to customer ID lookup. So this one, if I switch the headers to flat headers, then I can do that. Look pretty good. So I'm happy with that one. I'll close that one off for the moment and let's go across and take a look at this one. Right, so what do we need to do here? I need to get that row. Okay, so if I skip the first row, so let's do that with a drop component. So drop the first one. Do that slightly to get a little bit more space. Okay, so that's going to drop the first row. So that looks good. Okay, so we've got a column of nothing, say, on the right-hand side. So let's get rid of that. We can, I think, remove blank columns. So if I use that component, that will eliminate that one. And now I can take the field names from the first row as names. So that then moves the names up. You can see the preview down there at the bottom. So one problem we've got is the name was repeated in the output, so it was renamed. So we've got name and name one. But that's fine. We can just clean that up using a rename component. So rename columns, and so name is first name, and name one is last name. Okay. So now I've dealt with that warning on this one here, I can switch the in problems to ignore. So I've dealt with that warning. And now I can join in my customer names to customer ID lookup. join component. Over the right hand side. And I want to do a inner join on first name and on last name. And I don't need to specify the right hand column names because they're the same in the right hand table. So then if I expand this, if I've done that correctly, we should have a new field on the right hand side, which you can see there, which is the customer ID. So the next thing is to remove the names. So we're trying to maintain privacy here, so I can just do remove columns and then choose that first name and last name. And there we go. That's that first step done. So we can, again, over here, mark the being done. That tick. Great. And then I think just to keep my workflow clean as I go, I'm just going to group all these together up into a group. Select those A components, use the button at the top to group those together, collapse them down. And I'm going to add a note so when I come back later, I can see what this section does. Okay, so next up, we need to group the online and in-person into one field. So what have we got for the minute? Okay, so online and in-person is two fields with yes, no. And if you look at the example output we've got down here at the bottom, we want to get to a single field because they're online or in-person. So for this, I think what I'll do is if I transpose the data down, so, and then I can get a single column. We've got online or in person, so yes, no's in a single one. And so key columns, gender, let's see, number, date, right, online or in person is what I want to transpose. Select everything else. Okay, so if we look at that, we can see we've got the name, online, in person, value, no, yes. And now if we filter all of these where the value is yes, so column, don't this a bit so we can, there we go, equal to text value of yes, takes us back our 99 rows that we had in the original one. And we've got now a single column, which is in person. So it's called name because that's the default attribute column name in the transpose tool. But in actual fact, I can rename it in here. So this is now online or in person. And there we go. So that's that next piece done. So okay, let's check this as we go. Okay, so add a field for the day of the week the transaction was completed. So we've got date field. So we just need to pass that field to a date format. So it's coming from the Excel with that header that's coming as a mixed field. So casting it to date means we can then do some daytime operations on it. And I now use the format component. I can format that date column if we expand it out. So got one with a day in, I'm not sure we do. So I know that day is if we do D. Okay, but they want the full. So another day. There we go. So that's given us the day of the week. And again, that just means a rename to keep ourselves tidy as we go. So let's rename that. So the date field is that weekday. Right, looks good. Um, check that one off. Okay, so next we need to rank the sales for each weekday. So for each weekday, simply ranking it by the highest sale is rank one. Yeah. So for that, we can use the, I think if I type in rank, yeah, so it's the add row number is the rank component in Enso. So if I add that, um, the name, the rank, start from one, step with one. Right, so it's grouped by the weekday, and we want to order by sales, sale total, descending. So then if we look at that, right, so then if I sort it by rank, just check that looks right. So checking against the example data in there. So rank one for Monday is 494.60. Looks right. Rank two for Monday, 943.60. Yep, so that looks all good. So that's that one done. Okay, so next, create a parameter to output a data set for each day of the week and output the data, which is the Monday example output. So I think a parameter is a specific thing that you get in Tableau Prep, which is what these challenges are originally designed for. What it's asking us to do, I think, or at least I'm going to do in this example, is output a CSV file for each day of the week. So we'll have an output for Monday, output for Tuesday, etc. That's not something that's naturally built into Enso today. It's something that our future roadmaps make that easier. We can do it. We need to with a map function, and it'll be a good exercise in how to use the map function. So yeah, I'm just going to collapse these components up. We've got the space to work with. Um, okay, so our starting data look like this. And what we want to do is write a file for each day of the week. So this for each mechanism that you do often in Enso, you do something called a map. Um, and there's a set process you go through to do this. So first thing to do is get a list of the things that you want one of each for. So in this case, it's days of the week. So if I take the weekday column, so I can do, actually, I need to group it first. So let's do a bit of one. Yeah, so let's group weekday. So we want to create a file for each of the items in this list. So we'll convert it to column. So do at weekday. Now the trick for doing a map operation, so map operation exists on this column, so we can do a map and this applies a function to each item in the column and returns the results. So what we'll do is we'll take a single value from the column, so we at 0, it's the top one. So you'll see in this case, it is Friday. So then we'll build out the components to do what we want for a single one, the first one, and then we'll convert that into a function and we'll pass that into the map and we'll see it iterate for each one. So in this case, with the Friday, what we need to do first is sample this data down to the data set that we want to write out. So for that, it's just a filter condition. So we'll add a filter component. We'll select the column weekday, and then we'll want that to be equal. And then we'll just drop the Friday onto that too. So if we look at this data now, we've filter this down. It's not obscured by my face. And we've got, here it is, Friday. So these are all the data for Friday. And then what I want to do is write this to a file called Friday. So I'll write it back out. So to do that, we use a write component. So we need to create a dynamic path. So I'm going to copy the input location. So I'll write it back out the same folder that we wrote in. And then I'm just going to create a string constant. So I'll click on the canvas, create a new component. I'll open quotes to create a text constant. So this is just text constant. But what I want to do is update this again with it Friday. So I'll go into code edit mode. I'll close the quote. I'm going to call it output underscore. That's a constant string plus, and then I'm going to put an underscore in there, which can be a placeholder. We'll use in a second. And then I'm going to write these as CSV files. So dot CSV. And if I press enter, you'll see we get these two parts with the little placeholder in between, and now I can drag this and drop it onto that placeholder. And if I got that right, and we look at the result of that, that gives us now a path that's output Friday.csv. This is great. So each time we iterate over, we can change where it goes. So I just need to now plug that in to the output path. So, previously we went to output, we've hard coded the path here. Today we're driving this dynamically with this data. So now if I was to run this workflow, we can test that it all works okay for our single one. And just drop out of full screen mode a second on up to let's get data week 20. And you can see that that's created the output Friday file. That's good. So the next thing we need to do is now iterate over. So having created it for single input, we now need to group up all the things we want to do over and over again. So in that case, it is these three components. If I select the three components, again, use the button up here at the top to collapse those down. So we've now got a collapse function with those three things in. Where we're plugging in this Friday, so you can see that's going in there, we want to replace that with a placeholder. So again, if I go into the code edit mode, you can replace that underscore character, becomes a placeholder. So this is now a function that we can plug into our map operation. So let's tidy up a little bit. So sometimes I keep this around. If I want to test in the future, I might want to drop it back into that operator port, but it's optional. And now if I do a map, so what the map will do is take a function in here. So that's what this now is because it's not plugged in, it's a function. And it will run this function for each of the inputs going here. So if you remember, this input here is all of our days of the week. So it's going to run all of those components for each day of the week. So if I now, again, press the record once button to actually make those outputs live, and we can look in our output folder, we've now got an output for each of those days of the week. And I think that is the last task. So again, I'll mark that as completed. And that is Preppin data week 20 solved in Enso. Thank you for watching. I'm going to post the completed workflow out on our community site. So if you want to play with it, go have a look there. Thank you for watching.